Up until November 2022, Sam Bankman-Fried was one of the most prominent, influential, and powerful figures in crypto, and one of the wealthiest people in the world. His business giants FTX and Alameda Research, once the key industry players, are now bankrupt, and Sam Bankman-Fried is facing trials. What happened? How did such a respected person become the most hated man in crypto in less than a week? This is a story of greed, ego, and billions of dollars lost in an unprecedented span of events. Sam Bankman-Fried was born in 1992 into a family of Stanford Law School professors Barbara Fried and Joseph Bankman. As a talented kid, he attended a summer math camp for mathematically gifted high school students. Soon after graduating from Crystal Springs Upland School in San Francisco, California, Sam became a student at Massachusetts Institutes of Technology, one of the most acclaimed and highly regarded schools in the United States. He described himself as a really negligent student. Despite juggling several extracurriculars alongside his academics, Sam half-arsed his way through a physics degree, playing video games such as StarCraft and League of Legends, rather than studying. Following his graduation, this young billionaire-to-be took a high-paying finance job, an internship at Jane Street Capital, a global trading firm. Sam naturally gravitated to this work and quickly found it enjoyable. Soon after, he began trading ETFs at Jane Street Capital's international desk. This is where he learned the art of arbitrage, the process when traders buy assets on one market for a low price and sell them on another one for a higher price. One of the most known arbitrage trading opportunities is a kimchi premium, a gap in cryptocurrency prices in South Korean exchanges compared to other exchanges globally. Due to the kimchi premium, popular cryptocurrencies are traded at a higher price on South Korean exchanges than on other ones located in the US and Europe. However, even though by late 2017 the premium on Korean exchanges was up to 30%, the South Korean government implemented regulations to make it difficult for foreign investors to exploit this opportunity and move money around freely. And this is where Sam Bankman-Fried smelled an opportunity, but only 590 miles south, in a country of the rising sun and samurais, Japan. The market here was way less saturated, as Bitcoin was trading at only a 10% premium, and the volume was 5 times lower. But Sam decided to take a shot. In late 2017, with approximately $1 million in savings and help from his friends and family, he launched Alameda Research, a quantitative trading firm. With a couple of recent college grads, he set up an office in Berkeley, California, and began working on the Japanese arbitrage trade hard, very hard, and it quickly became a stepping stone for his extraordinary success. Starting with only $200 per day, by the end of January 2018, he was moving $10 million worth of Bitcoin and making $1 million in profit a day. Every single day. The amount of money pouring into Sam's pockets was crazy. As Bankman-Fried accumulated more and more wealth from trading, his ambitions grew accordingly. Soon, he began exploring the possibility of building an alternative to what he called shit show exchanges he traded in between 2017 and 2018. You see, most crypto exchanges at that time focused on making it easy for individuals to simply buy and sell cryptocurrencies, but they were in no way equipped with advanced tools to help professional traders use sophisticated trading techniques at a rapid speed. Having sensed his moment, he took some of the profits from Alameda and $8 million raised from a few smaller VC firms and started building his own crypto exchange. After 4 months of coding, Sam Bankman-Fried launched FTX in May 2019. It was a slow start. A dozen employees hustled from standing desks in Hong Kong trying to lure traders to their new exchange. Soon, they found a niche serving more sophisticated investors looking to trade derivatives, stuff like Bitcoin options or Ethereum futures, and was also one of the few exchanges that featured tokenized versions of traditional stocks. With almost no operational costs, the company's profit margins were extremely high. By 2020, the platform traded an average of $1 billion per day. In 2021 alone, Bankman-Fried profited $350 million from FTX and another $1 billion from Alameda. Rockets started to take off. FTX was a win. This channel will also be a win and won't scam you if you subscribe and press the like button. Every blue-chip venture capital firm in the world wanted a piece of this up-and-coming business. A number of Wall Street and Silicon Valley major investors placed their bets, including Sequoia Capital, BlackRock, SoftBank Vision Fund, and Tiger Global. By early 2022, FTX was valued at $40 billion. In just 3 years, FTX has become one of the largest and most popular cryptocurrency exchanges on the market. With FTX's value rising day by day, Bankman-Fried's net worth skyrocketed. At its peak, his fortune reached $22.5 billion, and so did his public image. Magazines, billboards, and news, everyone wanted a piece of him. Sam Bankman-Fried became a GOAT, the king of crypto. His influence was starting to spread into political and popular culture. He signed a $135 million deal to rename the Miami Heat's arena, paid $210 million to stamp the FTX brand on leading esports league TSM, purchased $17 million naming rights for the UC Berkeley football stadium, launched a $30 million ad campaign to promote FTX through such ambassadors as NFL legend Tom Brady, basketball superstar Steph Curry, and Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary.
But you are an expert, right?
No, I'm not an expert, and I don't need to be. With FTX, I have everything I need to buy, sell, and trade crypto safely.
Major League Baseball referees wore an FTX patch on their uniforms, and Mercedes-Benz's Formula One race cars displayed the FTX logo. The company even spent tens of millions of dollars airing an ad with a comedian, Larry David, in the 2022 Super Bowl. NBA, NFL, TSM, NBL, Formula One. FTX was suddenly everywhere. And with all this power, money, and influence, this, the most hated man to be, managed to live a simple life. Or at least he pretended so. Even though he resided at a luxurious $30 million Bahamian mansion, the media created a narrative of a nice, down-to-earth guy who was driving a Toyota instead of a super expensive car, was a vegan because he loves animals, and dressed casually like the next Mark Zuckerberg. Sam was often praised for his effective altruism philosophy.
For me in particular, what it has meant is, making as much as I can so I can donate as much as I can to what hopefully are some of the world's most efficient and effective, charity.
He called money a unit of caring and was called the most generous billionaire. Sam Bankman-Fried quickly achieved superstar status, the altruist, the savior of crypto, the newest force in democratic politics, and potentially the world's first trillionaire. Bankman-Fried seemed unstoppable until he wasn't. And here's what happened. If you were around crypto for some time, you must know Binance, which is the most popular and recognized crypto exchange. And there is FTX, which is the number 2. Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, the richest man in crypto, is the founder of Binance. And Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, runs, you already know, FTX. These two guys don't like each other, but they got on well in the early days, until SBF started lobbying the US government behind CZ's back to regulate decentralized exchanges, which CZ heavily invested in. These regulations were to defeat the purpose of decentralization while greatly benefiting his own company. And CZ wasn't happy about that, just like the crypto community. But SBF was so confident in his actions that he didn't even mind making jokes about Binance's founder publicly. He didn't know how shortly after everything will go south and turn into the worst nightmare of his life. Just a few days later, in early November, the crypto publication CoinDesk reported a leaked balance sheet showing that Alameda Research was on unstable grounds. This trading firm had $14.6 billion in assets, $5.82 billion of which were FTX's tokens, FTT, the token they printed out of thin air, plus many other tokens of projects they were part of. Most of it was locked, not that valuable, or even worthless. Though Alameda Research and FTX were separate companies, soon it became clear that they were so financially tied up that one company's collapse would result in the bankruptcy of both. From the leaked information, it was obvious that Alameda could not sell these assets anytime they wanted. This is called the liquidity crunch, which basically means that the company had the money but didn't have access to these funds immediately. This situation signaled a huge problem for both Alameda and FTX, as the company had $8 billion of liabilities, most of which were loans. Because the majority of Alameda's assets were not accessible or even worthless if all customers decided to withdraw their money from FTX at once, the company wouldn't have enough funds to pay them off and could become insolvent. And allegedly, this is where CZ saw an opportunity that came out of the blue to take down his biggest rival. Due to recent revelations, we have decided to liquidate the remaining FTT on our books, said the ZZ in a now well-known tweet. You see, in 2019, when FTX was just a new kid on the block, CZ quickly noticed the potential and invested in FTX, but exited the deal in July 2021, receiving $2.1 billion in FTT and BUSD tokens. You don't need to be a genius to understand that a massive sell-off of CZ's FTT tokens would crash FTT price and convert FTX illiquid funds to no funds at all. So no surprise people started to withdraw their money like crazy, as the rumors of FTX insolvency and fear that the third largest crypto exchange might fall apart at any moment spread like a wildfire. FTT token price started to crash when FTX users withdrew $5 billion in one day. And even though the tension was growing hour by hour, it was still hard to expect FTX could collapse, keeping in mind their reputation, public exposure, and how big they were in the crypto space. As there were more questions than answers, the FTT price kept sinking fast like a Titanic, and then it got even worse. FTX stopped processing withdrawals, and the team went totally silent. And this is where CZ came into play and agreed to bail out the company by signing a non-binding LOI, intending to fully acquire ftx.com and help them to deal with a liquidity crunch. In other words, they said that they would help FTX with this short-term issue in exchange for their long-term assets. And it seemed like a genius move from CZ, who owned the #1 exchange and was extremely close from acquiring his main competitor. It was named as a genius move and cutthroat strategy of Binance, as CZ was the one who escalated this matter in the first place. CZ himself stated he'd had no intentions of harming his competitor, and that his decision to sell FTT tokens had been just a logical action to save these assets from vanishing. It also showed how bad things were for FTXs, as they agreed to be acquired by their main competitor. Nevertheless, for the next 24 hours, everything seemed okay, as the panic level decreased and everyone thought that even though FTX was in big trouble, Binance would provide liquidity and everything would get back to normal soon. Unfortunately, there was one but. The agreement made by CZ and SBF was a non-binding one, meaning that CZ could have walked away from the deal at any time if he had seen that something had been wrong with the company's finances. And so it was. Due to mishandled customer funds, alleged US agency investigation, and issues which are beyond their ability to help, they've decided not to pursue their potential acquisition. In a chat group that included Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ, the former posted a note saying, "Sam, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to continue this deal. Way too many issues." After this, SBF's reputation collapsed overnight, as it wasn't a liquidity crunch or any type of temporary problem anymore. It was the third largest crypto exchange insolvency or even fraud, resulting in lost assets of its investors, lenders, and customers. Just 48 hours after Binance's announcement, having failed to secure a bailout, Sam Bankman-Fried announced that FTX, Alameda Research, and 130 additional affiliated companies had started voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings. In other words, one of the most prominent and largest crypto empires fell apart just like that. The crypto community was furious, devastated, and lost. What had just happened? How did one of the most praised, wealthiest, and influential crypto empires collapse in less than a week? As this story was now under the magnifying glass, more and more pieces of evidence of bad decisions were coming back to the public eye. The red flags had been all over the place for weeks, or even months, before the events took the wrong path. And people ignored all of that. Finance key figures, outlets, and even YouTubers were sending warning signs long before the collapse.
But nothing here fits. Everything reads like this thing is a complete scam. And I think this thing is dirty and rotten to the core.
But only a handful of people took them seriously. You see, FTX was ingrained in people's minds through tons of ads and influencers praising this cutting-edge exchange. So it was really hard to believe something could go wrong until it resulted in more than 1 million people losing their money. Everyone who handed hundreds of millions to FTX might have been mesmerized by SBF's vision, but they were not kept in check by regulators and the facts.
Look what you did, you
It was an essential moment of truth when everyone took a look back at Sam Bankman-Fried and understood the critical fact. All that time, he was lying. Lying till the very end. Days before the collapse, in now deleted tweets, he was saying that FTX is fine, the assets are fine, and that FTX has enough to cover all their client holdings, even though they were not.
Did you know that FTX deposits were used to pay off Alameda creditors?
And it wasn't even the worst part of the story. You see, crypto exchanges charge a fee from each trade whether the prices of cryptocurrencies go up or down, so they profit no matter what. So, where is that money?
Where is the money?
How did all these billions vanish? Why did CZ mention mishandled customer funds in his statement? This is where Alameda Research comes into play again. Even though the FTX and Alameda were two different business entities, it turned out that all that time they shared customers' funds. FTX was lending the money that their customers had deposited in exchange for trading purposes to Alameda Research, allegedly using a bookkeeping backdoor to avoid internal scrutiny at FTX. And the craziest thing is that in return for the money borrowed, Alameda gave FTX its own FTT token, which could be compared to a traditional company providing its own stocks to the bank as collateral for the loan, which is total nonsense, as those stocks can go to zero if the company bankrupts. So as for now, reportedly Alameda owes around $10 billion, and no one knows exactly where all this money went. Stolen? Hacked? Or as most people believe, lost on dozens of very bad trades? Let's leave this for investigators, but what we know for sure is that it's not in the pockets of Sam Bankman-Fried anymore. And while some victims were refreshing FTX money withdrawals page, praying to get their funds back.
What do you think? Yes or no? Did I get my 25 grand out?
I think you probably got it.
I did it on November 9th. It's now November 14th. It said it would happen by today, and it is not in the bank account. All right, there we go. Just another disappointment.
Others were waiting for Sam Bankman-Fried to be arrested. Meanwhile, SBF didn't cease to amaze how delusional he was. Instead of being fully transparent, he started messing with everyone, posting random cryptic tweets, inflating the fire even more. "I'm improvising. I think it's time," said Sam to journalists, as well as telling them he still found some time to sleep and play a storybook brawl game, which occurred to be just an advertisement for the game he owns. When tens of thousands of people were raging about him going to prison,
Gotta get to the bottom of finding out why SBF has not been walked out of the fucking office in handcuffs.
from his behavior, it was clear that the former billionaire wasn't even feeling guilty. He was addressing some broken financial instruments and dumb mistakes he and his team made, but not intentionally using and losing his customers' funds.
Was there a violation of the terms of use?
I don't know of a violation of the terms of use. I don't know every line of the terms of use. I can't confidently say there wasn't, but I don't know of one.
The worst thing is that people lost trust in crypto and in each other. If you can trust no one, who can you trust?
So with this type of events happening, it's devastating for the industry. A lot of consumer confidence is shaken, and I think basically we've been set back a few years.
Billions are gone. The belief in a bright future is disrupted, and it will take years to build back what was destroyed by one greedy and irresponsible man.
He is a con man, a scam artist, and a fraud.
And even though the crypto space is an extremely toxic, stressful, and dangerous place, the potential which lies behind the technology is staggering. Rome wasn't built in a day, and nor will Web3. And if it's even hard to grasp it now, the painful lessons we learned will help us to get there faster. What's next for Sam Bankman-Fried? Tens of years of imprisonment or justification? Time and prosecutors will tell. But as for now, we are sure, without him, the crypto space will become a better place.